that one. All right, I've started the recording.
Sorry, all of a sudden my computer froze for half a second. We can see Dew.
Yeah.
So yes, again, welcome everybody. A few administrative contracting points. If you guys aren't going to be talking, it's quite useful to keep yourself on mute. So on your, I see that everybody's on mute for Dew, just to confirm that on the mobile device, if you tap on your screen, somewhere on your screen, there will be an icon for a microphone. And if you just tap, then it will do a strike through and it'll keep you on mute. Thank you. And then during the webinar, if you guys want to raise your hands to have an input in the chat functionality, if you click on chat on the mobile devices, it's the three dots on the screen. It'll give you an option to raise your hand. You guys seeing that? Give me a thumbs up if you can see that.
I don't see it.
Not seeing the thumbs up.
I can only get it if I click on the participants. It gives me a list and then it gives me a row of options. Try that, Alex.
Oh, thank you.
There we go.
Right. Yeah.
Got it now. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Hi, sorry guys, I seem to be having some tech issues. My computer keeps freezing. Okay, so that's it's just a safer way to raise your hand as if you're in a class. I'll keep an eye on if anybody wants to put up their hand. And otherwise, when Kirsty has her input, she'll give you a bit more prompting about how to best work at that time. Let me just check in with Kirsty if I've missed anything there on that contracting piece.
No, I think the only thing I would add is if we're speaking too fast, Keiko, will you stick a hand up or something so that you're still with us? Because yeah, I know English isn't your first language, so I wouldn't want you to miss anything. Is that okay? Okay. Cool.
Yeah, thanks, Kirsty. So I'll hand over to Kirsty now to give us some input.
Cool, thank you. All righty, so welcome to A Taste of TA. The reason behind running this workshop today is that I can only really speak for myself, but working as a life coach, I share a lot of the TA information and the models with my clients, and they find it so valuable. And I thought, you know, the next step would be to do a TA 101, but it's quite a time commitment. So wouldn't it be nice to have some kind of introduction to the TA 101? So something where we can share with you, you know, what is TA really? What is it at its essence? Who is the SATAA? So what do we do? Why are we? And also share with you one of the core foundational models, which is the parent, adult, and child, and how we use it functionally. So that's why, yeah, I had this idea to do this introduction to TA. So we really wanted to connect with our border community. So it's almost like the people. So within the TA community, you know, we know who is training in TA and uses TA, but it's almost the people in the next circle. So the colleagues and the family and the friends of all the people that use TA. I know my family can almost quote, you know, I'm okay, you're okay, and all of those different TA terms to me, but it would be so useful for them to get an idea of what is this all about. So it's the intention today is to connect with our border community, to share some information, to show how being part of our community can be really valuable to you. and to give you, in particular for today, to give you some value, whether you decide to join us or not. Because as Karen has said to me on numerous occasions, TA is a gift, and that's why we didn't charge for this, because yeah, it gives us so much pleasure to share this with you, because we're all so passionate about it and have found it so useful. And for you, our intention is, learn some new information, perhaps develop a new sense of self-awareness, learn something about yourself, and start considering how might you start using this insight or this knowledge within your own frame of reference. So whether it's at work or in your relationships or just within yourself. Nadia's joining us. Great. And that's everyone. Hi, Nadia.
Hello.
Hi, great. We've just started. We can't see you, but I can hear you.
Sorry that I've just joined late.
No problem. We've just started. Okay. If you can figure out how to turn your video on, that would be great to see you. But if not, then that's okay. So basically all I've done so far is share what our intention with today is, and that is to share a little piece of TA with you and what we're all about and what the TA community is. Okay, so let's start with doing some introductions. It would be great for everybody to bring their voice into the room, so to speak. We'd love to hear, who are you, how did you hear about TA, and what is it that you want to get out of today? After that, we'll go into the learning part of the day. So I'll do a bit of an experiential learning experience with you, and then Andrew will share some of the actual theory with you. And then we'll have time at the end for reflections, questions, and a bit of conversation around it. Okay, so let's start off with our introductions. Who are you? How did you hear about TA? And what is it that you want to get out of today? And feel free to just unmute yourself, maybe just physically do that. Then we know you're about to speak, and unmute yourself to share. Please go. Should I go first? Since I'm already unmuted and talking. All right, I'll go first. Okay, so my name is Kirsty Melnerd. I am the treasurer here at the SATAA. I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa. I am a life coach, and I run workshops and do one-on-one sessions with individuals in a personal capacity, not so much in the professional world, but more so in the personal realm of development. And I first came across TA when I was 16, actually. We had someone come to our school and run a workshop about how to be real, and he introduced us to Cartman's Drama Triangle. And I didn't know at the time that that was TA, but I later found out when I went looking for a coach training program that this whole thing of TA existed. And then I came across Karen's website and did a TA 101 and my coach training, which had a lot of TA content in it. And here I am today. So I've already shared what I want to get out of today is to share, to meet some new people and learn something new. Because every time I look at something I've already seen 1,000 times, I always take something new out of it. So yeah, that's me. Who would like to go next?
I'm happy to go. Hi everyone, nice to see new faces always. My name is Alex. I live and work in Cape Town. My introduction to TA was in my previous career as a flying instructor in the South African Air Force. And I found it very useful to help me understand myself and my relationships with other people, and maybe even figure out what's going on for other people. That led me to coaching, which I do now full-time, and I supervise coaches as well. My interest today is to obviously engage with new people and to hear about your own interest in TA and what you would like to learn, and then to give you a little bit more information about what the SATAA is all about and what we can do for you.
Thanks, Alex. Who would like to go next? Andrew.
Yeah, so my name's Andrew. I'm based in Pretoria in South Africa, and I first came across TA in my coach training, and found it a really usable, right from the get-go, set of models of getting to understand who I am, and then have found it an exceptionally valuable filter to think through when I get to work with my clients as a coach and also as a coach supervisor. So there's this double-sided usability for me about getting to know myself, and as I get to know myself more through these models, I am able to add more filters to how I think and listen and communicate with my clients. And interestingly, in my personal life, it's also become quite significant. So giving a safe joint language to use with my partner, and also with engaging with my family, who aren't trained in transactional analysis, but it helps me identify where they might be coming from, and not to try and TA them, but just to be more authentic and in the moment, and navigate potentially dramatic moments a bit better. And the family seems to enjoy me a bit more, which is always great. And then out of today, I think it's quite similar. My intentions or hopes are similar to Kirsty and Alex. So I also sit on the committee for SATAA as the secretary, and really excited at any opportunity to get more information about TA out there and more people in, so to speak. So looking forward to connecting with new people and testing out this idea of what Kirsty brought to the table.
Thanks, Andrew. Who's next? Karen.
So shall I complete the kind of ring? I'm also on the SATAA executive committee as chair of the SATAA. My name is Karen. I live in Cape Town in South Africa. I first met TA in 2000. It was one of those weeks where 3 unconnected different people mentioned TA. I had no idea what this TA was about, but it really, I thought I'd better take notice. And one of the people actually gave me the phone number of a TA trainer who was coming from the UK, Colin Brett. And I thought, I guess I've got to phone this guy because there must be a message here about TA. And that's when it started for me doing my TA 101. I followed the route to become a teaching and supervising transactional analyst in the educational field. Gosh, TA really informs so much of who I am and what I do in various capacities as a TA trainer and supervisor, a coach trainer, a coach supervisor. And I think, as others have alluded to, it kind of just seeps into you, and you use it very subtly. And for me, it helps me make sense of who I am in relationship to others. My intention is also similar for today, is to connect with new people. And I think just to share in the passion and excitement of what a fairly simple model can actually add to people's lives. I think it's quite humbling to see, sharing one piece of TA with somebody, what a huge impact it can have in their lives. And the more that is spread in our various communities, I think the more hopeful our life on this planet is going to become, as well as a lot of other things. But this is one aspect of it. So that's it from me.
Thanks, Karen. Who would like to go next? Nadia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nadia. I'm based in Johannesburg. And I first heard about TA through a friend and a colleague who had trained under Karen. His name is Stephen Davies. And yeah, so I'm an environmentalist by profession. I specialize in climate change. I don't have a real intention of becoming a life coach in a professional capacity. My interest really lies in personal development and understanding myself and understanding those around me. And also how I can relate that to work and how I can, improve my interpersonal skills and communication. So I'm quite new to life coaching. I've done one life coaching course online. And I'm really just interested in the content.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nadia. Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Who's next? Keiko.
Hi. My name is Keiko Hoshino from Japan. And my English is not so good, so I can understand your talking about 60% or 70%, but I'm now very enjoying your talking because I know the TA words, so maybe I can understand something. And my job is a trainer of adult training and for the good communication or Japanese hospitality manner training. It's a kind of doing polite in Japanese style. So I met TA when I was a trainee of the Japanese hospitality manner training. I found the word stroke in the manual on the first page. So I was very impressed, and I started to learn TA, and TA influenced me as a professional or personal, and how I can say. I'm just feeling nervous rather than oral exam. Yes, TA developed my life itself. So today I'm very interested in your meeting here because I'm very interested in TA itself, and also the person in other countries, especially in South Africa. And I'm very glad to see you. And it is a kind of TA training and also English hearing training for me. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Dew.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dew, and I'm based in Cape Town. And Kirsty is my life coach, and she introduced me to TA. I don't know a lot about it, but what I do know, it's quite fascinating. So yeah, I'm just here to basically learn a little bit more. I also don't have any intention to be a life coach or anything like that, but I just find it fascinating, and I like to learn how it can influence my life and those around me. So yeah, that's why I'm here today.
Awesome. Thanks, Dew. Great. Okay. I'm excited. Should we get into it? So what we're going to do now is hear from Karen, and she is going to share with us what is TA, where does it come from, and yeah, take it away, Karen.
Thanks, Kirsty. So this is a brief picture of where TA originated from. As I told you, when someone said to me, have you considered TA? I said, what is that? So Eric Byrne was the person in the 50s and 60s who developed TA. You can see there his dates. He only lived to be 60 years old, which is not a lot of long life, but there it is. In a nutshell, TA is a theory of human development. How do individuals develop and grow? How do we create our personality? What is the meaning we make of who we are? And communication. How do we communicate? Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. And as you can see with my two little figures there, it's both intrapsychic. That's the word for saying what goes on between me. So as you're sitting here, you might have some inner chatter, some thinking, some feeling going on about this group of people. Some of them you know, some of them you don't know. And TA gives us a framework to understand that. And it's also interpersonal. How do we do the you and me piece? When we shake hands, when we talk to each other, we connect, but there are those thought bubbles. There's stuff going on that we don't actually maybe say. Some of the key models that were first developed are ego states, parent, adult, child. Most people have heard of that. And the other big model was what Byrne called script. What's the story? What's the meaning we make about ourselves, others, and the world and life? And I think that's the hopeful part, because the story we made, we can change. It doesn't have to be just one version forever. So a little bit about the origins of TA. Eric Byrne was born Eric Leonard Bernstein in Montreal, Canada. And you can see he changed his name to Byrne when he went to the States. His father was a general practitioner. His mother was a professional writer. And he moved in his adult life to San Francisco. He studied psychiatry. His father was a psychiatrist, well, a general practitioner, but with an interest in psychiatry as well. And he actually was refused entry to the professional body of his time. So he's quite a rebel. He said psychological work doesn't have to be in the way that it was being done at the time. So his thinking is grounded in psychodynamic theory. And that means basically, what are our unconscious processes? We all sit here showing up on the screen in our different places, but we've got, if you like, things going on in the background. And that's what he was learning in his day. But he said it doesn't have to stay as that unconscious, deep hidden stuff that takes years to unpack. And he took his experience in clinical practice and he put that together, and he said, we can make sense and offer to people frameworks when we blend together what's going on within them, but what do we see? What's the observable behavior? And certainly when we look at ego states, we can see people doing different things. And I think this is going to come out in the model we're going to look at. We communicate in different ways. So ego states are putting together, capturing both the inner and the external. If you like, who are we? Who am I? Experienced from the inside of me. And who am I? Detected by observation from the outside. What are other people noticing? And what am I experiencing from the inside? That makes up the fullness of who I am. The thing that really drew me to TA are these three basic principles. The philosophy, everyone's okay. That's a deep phrase. People sometimes think it's too light and okay, I'm okay, you're okay, that's rubbish stuff. But okayness means deep mutual respect for humanity, myself and others. Everyone can think for themselves and everyone can choose to change. I think many of us in our communities have been told what we can think and do. So the empowerment that comes when we meet this approach in people working with us is huge. I think you've heard some of these TA models. already referred to, but these were the four main theories: structural, ego states, transactions, so my parent, adult, child, your parent, adult, child, and then the arrow saying what happens when we speak. And then script, the meaning we've made of ourselves, and then games and the drama triangle. I think, Kirsty, you said you first met the drama triangle way back, is a really wonderful way in. TA is used in 4 different fields. It started off as a psychotherapy. It grew quite quickly into the field of counseling, education, and organizational development. And in all the developing countries in the world, it's really the educational and organizational development use of TA that is thriving and growing. I think when one goes to a conference, there are at least people from 40 different countries that will be gathering together at a conference. And maybe to describe how therapy and developmental TA differs, is developmental TA in working in education and organization, maybe the entry point will be in that outer square with behaviors, but change will also happen in beliefs and attitudes, which will go right down to the depth of our souls and what's our story. Whereas maybe psychotherapy would start with that. It would be going back into the past, unpacking trauma and challenging scripts, decisions. But like that spider on the web, work in one place will affect all the other places. And I've just given a list of Burns' major books. I think you'll see in 1964, he wrote Games People Play. That's the one that catapulted him into fame. And that's the one that actually is TA's worst enemy sometimes. People say, oh, that light book, Games People Play. But if you look at all the academic writing he did as a run-up to that, and since that, you can see that that was just he's got a very quirky sense of humor. That was his kind of humorous touch. So that's a quick snapshot of the roots and origin of TA. Back to you, Kirsty.
Thank you, Karen. Does anyone have any questions or comments at this point in time? No.
I think something actually which was new to me now, and I'm not sure if I just missed it somewhere along the way, is that I had no idea that Byrne wasn't accepted into his professional body. That kind of makes me like him even more.
Well, exactly. And I think often TA people find themselves on the edge, trying to fight for the validity of what we do. And I think that's in the whole organizational script, because that was Byrne's script. He was a bit of a maverick on the edge, but did such powerful stuff. So yeah, it's really cool to be in that lineage.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, then we will keep going over to Alex. So Alex is going to share a little bit of the history of the South African TA Association, who we are, why we are, and how we are. I'm just going to share my screen with you because there's some slides.
Thanks, Kirsty.
Let me know when you can see that, Alex.
It's working. Good to know. In the meantime, I'm sitting very close to the sea, so if you don't hear what I'm saying properly, just feel free to stop me and ask. So the roots of the South African TA Association go back to the 1970s when a group of psychotherapists created an informal learning group, and they were quite interested in transactional analysis. And those people were Patricia Clarkson, Maria Gilbert, and Diana Schmuckler. And because of the political environment in South Africa at the time, there were many TA practitioners who wouldn't come to South Africa to train people interested in TA. But 2 people, Richard Erskine and Rebecca Troutman, did come, and In fact, Richard is an honorary member of the South African TA Association. Fast forward a couple of years, and there was a drive to host the TA World Conference in South Africa. And in order to be able to do that, we needed to form an official organization, a non-profit organization. And the two people behind that were Sharon Kalinka and Di Salters. And they did quite a bit of hard work looking for funds, which were kindly offered by a number of overseas TA organizations, creating a website for our association and registering us with our own departments so that we could officially host the 2008 TA conference, which went very well. Since then, thanks Kirsty, you can go to the next slide. Since then, we've continued to provide services in TA for our own membership. We do that in different ways. So primarily, our purpose is to promote TA and to contribute to public well-being through the use of TA. The ways that we do that are through developing knowledge and the practice of TA, and to regulate and coordinate the activities of our members. So the kinds of events that we'll do are webinars, TA training. We engage quite frequently, at the moment it's every quarter, with a TA trainer either from South Africa or internationally to present on the theme that we choose for the year. And then we invite our own members and members of ITAA partnership organizations to join us for free, which is a benefit of the SATAA. And there's a small contribution which we ask for non-members. So the principles that guide our association, you'll find echo throughout TA philosophy. I'm okay, you're okay, the contractual method. Sorry, there comes someone else. And the belief in the human capacity to grow and problem solve, which I think echoes what Karen was talking about earlier. Getting back to the events that we hold, we invite TA trainers to engage with our membership. This year, the theme that we're exploring is diversity and looking at the concept of diversity through TA lens. So we have 2 more webinars on that, and members can also find more information about upcoming events on our website. And we have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter handle. So these are all ways that we give people information about not only TA's theory, but to actually have an experience of applying TA to their own cases. If you are a member, we will engage with you through those channels, but also we have a regular newsletter, and you can get discounts on events. If you're running your own TA-related events, you can advertise those through any of our channels. Excuse me. I wonder if anyone has a question on who we are or what we do.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alex. I didn't actually realize myself that Sharon Kalinka helped found the SATAA, and she's the next presenter for our next webinar that we're running, where she's talking about the Enneagram and bringing that into using TA. So bringing the Enneagram and TA together, which I'm so excited for because I don't know much about the Enneagram. So yeah, what's going on? Thank you.
Can I say something on that, Kirsty?
Mm.
So TA, even though it has its roots in psychotherapeutic practice, can be really applied regardless of the work that you do, because in its essence it is about human relationships, development and communication. So one doesn't have to be practicing as a coach to use TA to make sense of the world that you live in and how you engage with it. So TA, if you're in an office space, these are the kinds of concepts that you can use to understand the relationships that you have with your team or with colleagues. So one doesn't have to use TA professionally to be able to benefit from it. And so when we have webinars and other TA events, it's still accessible regardless of how you work as a professional.
So true. Thank you. Okay, if we're all right to keep going, then I'm presenting the next bit, which is going to be some fun, hopefully. All right, so I'm going to share the screen with you. All right, so this is where we get a little bit creative. And what I thought we could do is start mapping out the qualities of the parent, the adult, and the child, and see what we come up with. So at this point, I invite you to turn on your microphone and shout out words and answers to me as we go, so that we can, get as much sharing and engagement as possible. So I'm not going to focus too much on actual theory. I'm going to get more creative. All right. So how the parent, the adult, and the child is usually drawn out is like this. I'm practicing my circle drawing. There we go. All right. So first, what I would like to do is get you to have a think and consider the qualities of a parent. So when you think about a parent, what are the roles of the parent? What are they trying to do for you? Let's go with red. Someone throw out a word.
Caring.
Caring. Yes. Oh, and please do forgive my spelling if any interesting words come up, like complicated words come up. All right. So a parent is caring. What are some other qualities of a parent?
Responsible.
Responsible. Definitely. Responsible. Any other qualities of a parent?
Protective.
Protective. And what about when being protective goes a little far into overprotective? That's what I'm going to contribute. Piggyback on Karen's word. What other qualities?
I'm thinking about potentially being judgmental or being too harsh, I suppose, and coming across as being judgmental.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that side of a parent at some point in our lives, or even just an authority figure. Any other words to add? Qualities of a parent?
What about guidance?
So guiding us morally to know the difference between right and wrong. That type of guidance?
Yeah.
Has anybody else got a word to add?
Punitive.
Punitive.
I actually just want to see how you spell it, Kirsty.
Did I do it right?
Yeah, you did.
Cool.
Something that can at times be difficult to accept, but is important, is structure.
So look both ways before you cross the road, brush your teeth twice a day.
Yeah, it's usually in this day and age when I experience those, if I'm in an irritated mood, my reaction wants to be something like, "Don't tell me what to do." But in hindsight, I understand that it's coming from a good place.
I get that. In my late 20s, my motto was, "I do what I want." Anything else? So we've got some punitive, too harsh or judgmental. Then we've also got providing us with structure, responsible, protective, moral guidance, overprotective, caring, guidance. I'm going to add something in here. They can teach us empathy, how to care. And they're really there to nurture us. Any other words?
There's something there about there's loving. I think that all this caring, nurturing, empathy, they all touch on facets of love, but there's something also deeper there.
The unconditional love from a parent.
I suppose maybe that's also the doorway of where it can step into becoming overdone.
What would you call that?
The word that I was brought up with is mollycoddling. Yeah, and I'm actually, and as I was saying it, I was feeling terrible for saying it.
I'm going to go with that version.
That looks perfect.
Cool.
Consistency.
Consistency. And something I'll add in here, critical, which I guess goes with judgmental, but sometimes our parents or authority figures in our life can be quite they criticize us without even meaning to sometimes. Here's something. All right, so we're starting to paint a picture of what a parent looks like. We can see that there's some really wonderful qualities, you know, from providing us with structure and being responsible and guiding us and loving us. And then there are these other aspects which are don't feel so good, which are perhaps not so helpful. So the criticizing and the judgments, being a little bit too harsh or punitive. And then also it's almost on the other side, you can see that the loving side, it's almost like when loving goes too far, if you could put it that way, but that mollycoddling or the overprotectiveness. And the word that we use in TA over here is marshmallowing. So it's almost a bit like that helicopter parent, which is the modern term used today. So the one that hovers over their child so that nobody else can come close. It's like extreme overprotection. All right, any other words to add to parent before we move to the child? Cool. Okay, so now let's have a look at the child. What are some of the qualities of a child that which color shall I go for? Let's go for purple. What are some of the qualities of a child that come to mind?
Having fun.
Fun? Mm-hmm.
Being playful.
Mm-hmm. Any other qualities of a child? Perhaps think back to your own youth.
Affectionate.
Affectionate.
Dependent.
Dependent. Dent. That's how we're going with it today. All right, what else?
Needing to be obedient.
Obedient. In the positive sense of the word.
Two sides of a coin, I suppose.
I guess two sides of a coin, hey?
Yeah, so there's obedience as in, I told you to go brush your teeth, and then there's, what would the other type of obedience be?
I'm thinking like willing obedience because it makes sense, or like I do it but I don't really want to do it. So I guess that's a bit of rebellion.
Well, yeah, so rebellion, and the word that came to mind for me was compliant. So I'll comply with your wishes, but I'm not going to be happy about it. Or I'm going to rebel, and actually I'm not going to do what you say. Thinking of tantruming couples.
When Karen first said obedient, what came to mind was being, when it's done well, being well-mannered, so observing social protocols.
Okay. Anything else?
Egocentric.
Egocentric. It's all about me. Ego.
Create.
Create, yeah, absolutely. Another creative. Yeah, definitely. When I think about a child, I think about one that's really excited, you know, that can, I don't know, pick up a rock and figure out 100 different ways to play with it or to use it. So yeah, very creative.
Curious.
Curious. That, but why? But why? But why?
I was thinking about the word fun, and when maybe it goes too far, becoming mischievous.
Oh, she's throwing me curveballs there. Mischievous. Yeah. And I'm thinking also of teenagers, or especially pre-teens. So, I mean, when you say the word child, I automatically think of a small child, but even as they begin to grow and to develop into adults, there's that tween or teen stage where they start to exercise their independence and figure out what is the boundary between me and the rest of the world. And often, I know my sister's a teacher in grade 7, which is that tween stage, and she said they become quite, when you say egocentric, quite selfish, self-involved. Like it's all about me and my needs are most important, and they're still learning how to negotiate with the rest of the people and the other people in their lives.
I know many adults that are still doing that.
Yes.
I do not. Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. Okay. Anything else? Cool. I just want to add a word on this side because I know it's the official word, which is cooperative. So the children that can follow the instructions, that do what they're told, that learn right from wrong, but it's helpful and it's healthy and it keeps them safe and learning. Cool. All right, so if there's nothing else to add, Okay, then let's move on to the adults. Okay, so when I say adult, what I mean is think about you, but like the best version of yourself, your best qualities. So you on a really, really good day, what are the qualities that you would want to show up with? And I'll get it rolling. Respectful, or just respect.
Compassion.
Compassion, correct.
Dynamic.
Dynamic.
Reasonable.
Reasonable. I like to always say, look at the bigger picture.
Grounded.
Grounded. What else? How else would you show up on a good day?
Engaged.
What else? I'm going to put here problem solving, because I believe we are infinitely creative and resourceful, and we can find a solution to any problem. Any other words?
Alert.
Alert.
And aware.
Mm-hmm. I want to add in here mindful, similar to aware, but my hope is that I can be mindful in the moment. Okay. Does this paint enough of a picture, or are there any words that you feel have been left out? Honest. Forgot my number one value. Honesty. Oh, and my other. Authentic. So my mission statement, live life authentically. Okay. And the last thing I want to add in here is you'll notice the way I've laid it out, which Andrew's going to go into now, is you could almost draw a box around all the positive qualities in the middle. So when you look at the parent, there's these two sides of it. They're the really helpful, energizing, positive qualities. And then outside of that box are the more negative, unhelpful, disempowering qualities. The same with the child. There's the two sides of the box. So inside the box, we've got the really helpful, fun, authentic, like I said, energizing, empowering words. And on the outside, we've got the disempowering, not in my authentic truth, those types of words. And then with the adults, there's only positive. So that adult is that me in my element, in my authentic power, in the here and the now. These are the qualities that I would embody. And I think Andrew's going to touch on this, so I won't step on his toes. But what comes to my mind is that the goal would be to stay inside of this box. Okay. Does anybody have anything else to say or add before I stop sharing this?
I think this looks good. Looks like a nice collage of meaningful words.
Great. Thank you. I've saved it. Okay. You're all still with me. Now I can see you again. All right. Andrew, do you want me to share that last one, or are you going to share it?
I'll share it. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Then over to Andrew.
So yeah, so this is it was wonderful to get to hear your voices coming in and adding your own experience of life and how you're making sense of these different, I suppose, facets of your personality, and how we can recognize it in ourselves and in others. So what I want to show you now is the one of the formal models that captures this. Trying to do. You guys, not yet. You're getting to see my screen.
Yes, you can see that. Thanks.
Thanks, Kirsty. Yeah, so this model, you already start to see some of the words that we put together on that that whiteboard. So this model comes together and is known as the OK communication model, and this was created by a team by our very own Karen Pratt, who's with us in the room now, and also let's just try and get my mouth around the surname, but it's Mandise Mbali Gonsi, who Karen and Mandise did a piece of work with some community carers, and building on some of the foundational models around ego states, and they created this this snapshot of the OK communication to make it as a useful, clear model to see where in this OK box, this is what Kirsty quickly drew in that green box in our previous words, is where we want to most of our time live life from. So something that is quite useful to think of is that at times when we step out of our OK box, it might be easy to say that it's serving us in that immediate moment. But if we step back out of that experience, we see that it's serving us in the short run, but in the long term, it's really not going to serve us. So looking at what is more appropriate in the here and now, and almost dance within this OK box of how to fully engage with the people and situation that we're currently in. So I just want to give you a couple of seconds to glance over the model and let it sink in. What's been quite useful for me in using this model is getting to see these prompts of guide and direct. So these were those characteristics that we identified from how we have seen parents, parental figures, but then also looking at ourselves. How do we step into these positive behaviors of guiding and directing people around us? So being assertive and firm, and being potent enough in the moment to set boundaries. One of my mom's favorite sayings is children need boundaries, and what became very apparent when I first started to learn about myself through the lens of TA is that it's not children, it's everybody needs boundaries. And the more we know the boundaries that are important to each one of us, the better we're able to engage with the world around us. Then moving on to the other side of looking after others and recognizing that what are the boundaries for ourselves in looking after others and also ourselves. So there's being comforting, loving, encouraging, but often it's quite tempting to be pulled outside of the OK box, and this is that word marshmallowing, or what I'd said about growing up hearing the word mollycoddling. So that's when mom comes and tries to make it all better, or dad goes and tries to sort out the bullies for you. So looking at what is your representation, your flavor of how you look after others. And then moving down into those child characteristics. So starting with the cooperative side. So this is that when we're looking at what is the social protocol at play here. So how do we be polite and considerate, but still be ourselves? So when things get, when politeness and consideration gets overdone, we might lose our voice and become that quiet person sitting in the corner of a social setting. But we're social creatures. That's where we get to connect authentically with others, through this door here. The other side of this, when things get overdone, is that if we feel like we're being forced to be too polite or too considerate and starting to lose ourselves, we might start to react in an outwardly way and become rebellious or defiant. And I'm sure we can recognize either seeing people or maybe even ourselves stepping into that space a little bit. So this is coming down to this relating to others. This is learning more about ourselves and how do we relate best with others. And then this is quite interesting, do my own thing. And Kirsty was tickled by what you said your motto was in your 20s. But bearing in mind that there's maybe a less useful way of doing it and a really authentic, useful way of doing it. So staying inside that authentic place, it's being spontaneous, creative and curious. And I love this addition of genuine feelings. And in this modern world, I think that we, especially getting into working environments, we're sort of not even encouraged, we're demanded to not really have our genuine feelings during the work hours, and having messages, especially gender norm messages about big boys don't cry and girls aren't allowed to get angry. But actually, in this okay box, we're still allowed to have authentic feelings. We're still allowed to be disappointed, hurt, overjoyed, and really engage with what is your flavor. And then as we see the things that when it gets overdone, this is when we, like Kirsty was saying about her sister experiencing with the tweens, the potentially stepping into their selfishness, being inconsiderate and immature, and when things get quite extreme, becoming a bit reckless. So all of this then gets centered around the adults being in the here and now, accounting for what is actually happening for ourselves at this moment, problem solving, being engaged, looking at our experience of life, looking at where things may have not gone so well and what lessons we've learned from that and how we can use that learning to really engage with the current task. Asking authentic questions that are useful. So being, I know for myself, I grew up needing to be quite polite. So when at times I might have become submissive, but when I engage with my here and now, I'm able to allow myself to ask those important questions. So what I'd like to do is to well, first ask now, while I've still got the model on the screen, if there's any questions coming up. And what I think, Kirsty, I see you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, it's just something that's been going through my head as you've been talking is how do we stay in that adult awareness or that okay box?
Yeah. I think that, so the first thing that I wanted to say, Kirsty, is that it's not just about being adult as the goal, it's being that dynamic ability to dance between these spaces. So we could have 1 foot in adult and 1 foot in structuring, or any combinations of those. And I'm sure when we really engage with our best selves and memories and desires of how we want to live going forward, we'll see that we're not just doing one flavor of this box. We're doing multiple flavors to come together in a delicious dish. But Kirsty, so the first thing that came to my mind on my own experience of an ongoing journey is being able to recognize when I'm getting hooked into the outside of my okay box, because it's not a pleasant place. It's high stakes and lots of energy, and I feel like I'm almost living outside of my authentic. Well, I am living outside my authentic self. So it's being able to learn about what are my early warning signs, and then how do I work with myself and my environment to safely assert boundaries and contracts that I can be present. I'm curious, Kirsty, from you, what comes to your mind when you ask that question?
For me, there's 3 things that help me with this. So the first thing is awareness. The more aware I can be of where I am, the more power I have to choose how to respond or how to go forward. So awareness of what's going on inside me, like in my body, are there any clues that I'm being invited to step out of this okay box? Or is there an emotional response that gets triggered when I'm invited out? So kind of having awareness of what are my own clues and what's going on. Second is to practice the pause. So for me, that pause is very important, because when I recognize that something's going on that doesn't feel so well, when I pause, it gives me the opportunity to reorganize my thoughts or to just calm down if I'm really being triggered. So I find that very useful. And the third is to spend regular time in that okay space, getting in touch with that part of me, so that when I am triggered, I can more easily access my awareness and my pause. Whereas if I don't spend time in quiet reflection with my inner self, then I'm more likely to just go to my default setting and to react to somebody.
I'm going to stop sharing so that we can see everybody's faces. So Kirsty, it sounds like you've got a really useful collection of tools on how you get to deepen your awareness and increase that capacity to pause. And I love those. Those sound like really powerful things, and the distinction as well of reacting versus responding. So reaction might be that knee jerk and standing outside of that box. Whereas when you're able to engage in the moment and pause for whatever time is necessary, and then choose how you decide to respond and engage. Just some quick time contracting. We've got about 12 minutes left. So maybe if we continue to share a bit about what's standing out for us, what's been useful, what is your question that you might be still sitting with and taking away, and then let's do that for about another 7 minutes, and then we'll hand over to Alex to close us out.
I was struck again by your question and your last conversation, Kirsty and Andrew, that what enables me to stay okay, when I think of the pluses and minuses really being profound, it's indicating my attitude to myself being respectful and to others being respectful, and out of the box not. So that brief moment of being irritated with someone and saying something quite harsh, if I get to remind myself of what's the implication, I'm disrespecting somebody else, and by doing that I'm actually disrespecting myself. That's quite profound. Mm-hmm. And I go back to you, Kirsty. How do I cultivate that sense of being in my practices that will shine through in my life? Because it really is profound about humanity and respect. Mm-hmm. That really was.
I think, thanks for sharing that, Karen. It's something that's been sitting with me for the past month and a half in particular, getting these regular inputs of different philosophies and different backgrounds, where the essence is know yourself. And the more you know yourself, the better you're able to engage with the world and teaching the world how to treat you, and it's quite a powerful place to be.
What I'm wondering is, for the rest of you, is what are you learning about yourself as you attend today? If anybody wants to share. What I'm learning is go back to that regular practice of getting in touch with the real me, because I know it grounds me. And also, I love doing this kind of thing. To take it out of the content for a moment. I love sharing it. Anybody else want to share?
What I learned was how easily it comes to me to name the more controlling parent behaviors, and it almost seemed like it was easy for the group to name those behaviors rather than the nurturing parent side. And that got me thinking about the themes emerging in societies around the world around that as well. It's been a long time that there have been useful structures, but there's also been a lot of domination taking place in the world, and how there's more of a shift now to softer, I think typically more feminine energies, more nurturing parent behaviors.
It's interesting to be able to reflect on the so very personally, but then also zoom out and see on a community and nationality and a global scale these different functions at play.
And I think one can zoom out and then also zoom back in, because all of those societal and cultural themes will impact the individual in how they grow up. So it gets me thinking back to, what am I used to and what am I not used to, and what are my own developmental areas.
So also I get this, I love this feeling that I recognize of what am I used to and where is it starting to become a blind spot, and that blind spot starts to like poke me in my rib cage a little bit, and I go, ooh, what's that about? And then potentially engaging in those types of practices that Kirsty was mentioning: self-reflection, meditation, mindfulness.
And I think there's something comforting in familiarity. So maybe we do want to do what we've always done, but then, as you say, it starts to poke you in the ribs, and hey, it's not really useful any longer. So there's almost a gentle honoring of what used to work and reflecting on what new might be more appropriate at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think there's a difference between being aware of what used to work, or using what used to work with awareness, and using it with no awareness or little awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it gives you more agency and choice over if you're using structure in a scenario versus something which might be rigidity.
Yeah. Being really present and knowing what is actually best at this point going forward. I'm wondering from Ju and Keiko if there's anything that you'd like to add in.
Well, I've learned again that I stay in the parent model a lot, but like the controlling, dominating. And I just need to learn how to stay in the adult's model ego state. So yeah, it's hard in the moment to come back into that, you know. So that's what I've learned.
I was by chance saw something that Kirsty had shared on one of the social medias this week. So, that quote about you're allowed to be a masterpiece and also a work in process.
Yeah.
That there's something really there's a lot of permission in that to say I'm still okay, and I'm also allowed to change and develop how I want to going forward.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ju.
Okay.
Thank you very much for today. This was my big challenge. Hearing in English and speaking in English. And today I learned language is different, but TA words is same. So yes, it is very wonderful that we have the same TA language and same TA community. And one thing I was thinking about how do I stay in OK box? I thought the same as Christy, and also sometimes I think that awareness is very important, and sometimes I think that how to stay in OK box is speak slowly or stop speaking, and breathing is very effective for me. And today it is very. I'm very happy to see you all, and I think Japanese culture is different from South Africa, but a little. I think there is a similar thing, because Japanese people thinks that a community is very important. So maybe there is something similar, I think. So I was very interested in your culture, and I'm very happy to see you, and I'm happy to speaking with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Keiko. It's been wonderful to have you here. This is something that I hold very dear about being engaged with the TA community, is being able to just connect all around the world and be able to learn from different cultures and different people. It's a really humbling, and I'm really grateful to be part of it. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Kirsty, anything that you'd like to add in before we hand over to Alex?
Just to say thank you. Thank you for honoring your commitment to show up today and for participating. And thank you to the rest of the SATA Exco for being part of my idea. So it's been a joy. Thanks.
Thanks, Kirsty. Could hand over to you, Alex, to close us out.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great to connect, and like we always do, we connect with people from around the world. So Keiko, thank you for coming and for using your voice. And so we invite you to follow us on our social media platforms. We have a Facebook page called the South African Transactional Analysis Association, and the same on Twitter. And we have a YouTube channel as well. So if you aren't able to be part of any of the webinars that we hold, we record most of them, and you can still enjoy the learning. If you become a member of our association, you'll also connect with our local community, and I think this is really important because people speaking the same language and people ready to explore themselves and relationships within the framework of TA, which I find very enabling. So today we worked quite a bit with theory, and it was a taster. And in other events, there is plenty of opportunity to do some more experiential exploration of yourself and your relationships with people. So we invite you to check out our Facebook page, our website as well, www.sataa.org.za, and we'll keep you updated about upcoming events. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex, and thanks everybody. It's been wonderful to connect, and hopefully we'll get to see you in the future.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Sayonara.